The Testimony by John Zerga Jr., the heavy metal prophet. They come for you. That is the first thing you need to understand. Not metaphorically, not as a figure of speech. They come, the manipulators, the architects of manufactured misery, the psychopaths and narcissists who have made an art form out of human destruction, and they bring everything they have. Dark psychology, witchcraft, rhetoric so sophisticated it would take Socrates himself 3 rounds to unhorse it. They pile on. They coordinate. They are patient in a way that evil is always patient, because evil does not have to build anything. It only has to destroy, and destruction is cheaper than creation and always has been. They are not random. They are not chaotic. They are precise in the way that parasites are precise, finding the exact pressure point, the exact wound, the exact moment of exhaustion, and they work it until something gives. And something always gives. Let me be honest with you about that, because this testimony is worthless if it starts with a lie. You break. Your will goes first, the part of you that chooses, that decides, that plants its feet and says, I will not yield. That goes. Then the body, then the mind. You are on your knees in the dark, pleading with God in every language available to a broken man, begging him to just let you go. Into the abyss, into oblivion, into the uncreated nothing before the first word was spoken over the first waters. Anything, anywhere, just release, just the mercy of the ending. And he says no, not with thunder, not with a vision, not with the soft religious feeling that gets sold in megachurches on Sunday morning, with something quieter and more absolute than any of that, the simple structural fact that you are still here, that the morning came again, that despite the betrayals and the spite work and the sabotage and the years of it, you are still breathing, and the people who were certain they had finished you are still waiting for you to fall. Your will goes, your body goes, your mind goes, but Jesus Christ of Nazareth will not let you go. That is not a comfort, not at first. At first it feels like a sentence, like being told the fight is not over when every instrument you own is reading empty. But then, and this is the hinge, this is the thing I need you to stay with me for, you start to read the record, not the record of your suffering. The other record, Lucifer, cast out of heaven like lightning, the most magnificent created being in existence, the morning star, the one who stood closest to the throne, and he did not negotiate his way out of it, did not charm his way out of it, did not find a loophole in the cosmic architecture or hire the right lawyer or call in the right favor. He fell. Isaiah saw it. Christ confirmed it. John described the final accounting of it. The record is consistent across every witness, across every era, across every tradition that has ever tried to make sense of what happened at the beginning of things. The most powerful creature ever made went to war against the order of existence and lost, and the losing was total and the consequence was permanent. The Garden of Eden, the first act of defiance against the architecture of what is, and the consequence was not a warning, not a second chance dressed up as mercy, not a committee convened to study the problem. It was expulsion, permanent and total. The door closed behind them, and the cherubim with a flaming sword stood at the threshold, and the record does not describe anyone getting back in. The deluge. Every calculation of human wickedness that had been accumulating since Cain. The full weight of what happens when a species decides collectively that the architecture of existence is optional. And the response was not a reform movement, not a strongly worded letter, not a new regulatory framework. It was water from horizon to horizon and silence after. 8 people, out of everything that had been built and accumulated and consolidated. 8 people, because 8 people had not made the calculation that the architecture was optional. The Assyrian army. 185,000 soldiers camped outside Jerusalem, the most lethal military force the ancient world had yet produced. The empire that had swallowed nations whole. The army that had never lost. The army that Hezekiah's generals looked at from the walls and understood with cold professional clarity could not be stopped by anything Jerusalem had. One night, the angel of the Lord moved through that camp, and by morning there was nothing left but 185,000 bodies, and a retreating king who went home and was murdered by his own sons. You read that record and something happens in your chest that is not comfort and is not peace. It is harder than both. It is the recognition, landing in the body, not just the mind, becoming personal fact rather than religious furniture, that the most terrifying force in the architecture of existence is not the enemy, has never been the enemy. The enemy is a creature. The enemy operates inside a created order he did not make and cannot unmake, inside a moral architecture whose enforcement mechanism does not accept bribes and cannot be lobbied and has never once been successfully appealed. Every act of manipulation, every carefully constructed lie told in a room with no witnesses, Every coordinated campaign of destruction aimed at a single human being, all of it is being recorded with a precision that makes human surveillance look like a child drawing a map in crayon. And the God whose wrath moves like a runaway train, precise and inevitable, following you into the mountain if that is where you choose to run. That God is not against you. This is not one event. This is the pattern across every era of recorded history, across every culture that has ever kept records, across every tradition that has ever tried to name what happens when power mistakes itself for the architecture rather than a tenant inside it. The pattern does not have exceptions. The pattern does not have a statute of limitations. The pattern has never once looked at the size or sophistication of the power arrayed against it and adjusted its conclusion. Nobody gets away with anything. Not one person. Not one act. Not one empire. Not one army of 185,000. Not the most magnificent created being in existence who stood closest to the throne and decided that was not enough. When that lands, when it stops being theology and becomes the most reliable fact you own, something shifts that does not shift back. You stop being afraid of the wrong things. The plotting does not frighten you. The Machiavellian delusion of men who believe they are going to get away with something does not frighten you. The screaming, the coordinated campaigns, the institutional machinery turned against a single human being, none of it frightens you because you have read the record, and the record is unambiguous. The manipulator is also a bearer of the divine image, however obscured, and that means the same justice that protects you is available to him. The same door that was closed behind the expulsion can be approached from the other side. The same God whose wrath you have learned to stop running from is the God whose mercy has no ceiling. You do not hate the manipulator. You grieve what he has chosen, and you leave his accounting to the only auditor whose books have never been wrong. Because here is what the record teaches you about your own position. You were not preserved because you were strong. You were not preserved because you were righteous enough, or strategic enough, or sufficiently prepared. You were preserved because the God who says, I give them eternal life, and no one will snatch them out of my hand, was not speaking metaphorically either. The same precision that brought 185,000 soldiers to the ground in a single night is the precision that kept you breathing through the years of it. The same force that followed Lucifer all the way to the bottom of his fall is the force that would not let you go when you were begging for the abyss. You did not survive because you were powerful. You survived because you were held. So here is where I end up. Here is the lawn chair. The world goes sideways, and it will go sideways. It is going sideways. The prophets describe this specific chaos with a specificity that should make every honest person's hands go cold, and everyone around you is running, screaming, looking for higher ground that does not exist, looking for a system that will save them, looking for the right political tribe, or the right bunker, or the right combination of preparation and luck that will get them through what is coming. And I am sitting in a lawn chair with a pint of Guinness, not because I am not paying attention, because I am paying more attention than anyone running. I have read the record. I know how this ends. It has been written down for 2,000 years in plain language, available to anyone willing to sit with it long enough to let it become personal fact, rather than religious furniture. The chaos is not a surprise. The chaos is the penultimate chapter, and I have read the last one. Where are you all running? There is nowhere to go. Every exit has been prophesied. Every hiding place has already been named. Me, I am going to finish this Guinness and wait for Jesus Christ of Nazareth to break through the sky, because that is not a hope I am holding on to. That is an appointment I am keeping. And the difference between a hope and an appointment is the difference between a man who is afraid and a man who is ready. I am ready. Copyright 2026 John Zerga Jr. All rights reserved.